take me through the Antonio Brown trade. Can you give me some of the backroom dealings, the gory details here of how did you pull this off? And you pulled off a great deal.
Well, I mean, Kevin Colbert, the GM from the Steelers, has been a friend for 18 years. And, he and I had talked for a few weeks prior to the trade, and I told him we had no interest in trading one of our first-round picks. And John and I have been unified on that front. And so I kept saying, we're not interested, we're not interested, we're not interested. And then the Buffalo thing fell through that Friday. And they reached out. One of their guys reached out to John, and John reached out to me. And I called Kevin, and Kevin said, "Would you trade your 2?" And I said, "No." But we might trade our 3. I think we'd go with our 3. And long story short, we came to an agreement on a 3 and a 5. And the hard part started after that, to be honest with you. I mean, the hard part was it was contingent upon getting AB signed to a new deal. And he had certain goals and parameters, and we had certain goals and parameters. The deal was on and off 2 or 3 different times. I mean, I went to bed Friday night, the deal was off. And we got up Saturday morning, and to Drew Rosenhaus's credit, he knows how to put a deal together. I mean, he's tenacious. And, we went back and forth, I can't tell you how many times, and we moved a little, and they moved a little, and ultimately Antonio Brown became a Raider.
Yeah, I'm always curious about that, the best deal you can make sometimes is when you can walk away from a deal, or you give the impression, I can walk away from this deal. Was that part of the strategy?
I think you've always got to be willing to walk away from a deal, and we went into it, and bottom line is, again, John and I were unified on those 3 first-round picks. So as intriguing as AB was, we were trying to build this team a certain way. But when he became available at a different level, it was kind of like, listen, we can change how we practice. We can change what we look like on Sunday. We can change how teams have to defend us. And for a 3 and a 5 at that point, we were ready to say, okay, it looks like free agency's got to change for us. And, I mean, the funniest part was I barely have been out of this building, and our owner, Mark Davis, asked John and I to come to Las Vegas for an event that Friday. And so we took our wives. We barely saw our wives. It was, as John said in the press conference, we were basically dating Drew Rosenhaus and Antonio Brown that night on the phone and trying to make things happen. So it was pretty cool, and ultimately it worked out.
Are you rebuilding? I'm not sure how to define what the Raiders are doing after you trade Khalil Mack and you trade Amari Cooper, but then you bring in AB.
Look, I wasn't here last year, so I can't speak for that. What I do know is we were 4-12. We added 4 really important starting players to our team. We haven't even talked about Trent Brown, who's 25 years old, and we think one of the dominating ascending linemen in this league. Tyrell Williams, who played for our division rival Chargers. We're going to pair him with AB. LaMarcus Joyner, our nickel/safety, who we think is special. And again, all of those guys are young. Mm-hmm. So people look at me and say, well, Antonio Brown's going to be 31 years old. And I'm like, yeah, but dude, he travels with a nutritionist. He travels with his trainer. I've never seen a guy that spends more time trying to make sure that he's going to play for 7, 8, 9 more years. And I thought the most telling comment he made in the press conference when he was asked about goals and ambitions outside of team goals, he said, I'd like to catch Jerry Rice. And he believes it. And I love that he believes it. So I don't think his age is contrary to what we're trying to do as far as building a young, powerful, tough football team.
When you look at personality, where do you stand? It doesn't strike me as Gruden's afraid of that, but, when you're bringing in a big personality by Antonio Brown, what concerns, if any, do you have?
I look at the positive side of it. First of all, the connection between him and John Gruden was amazing. I mean, John's connection with players, they want to come play for Chucky. It's unbelievable. And the two of them giggling like little kids watching clips of Antonio Brown in his office after we signed him was just priceless. As far as, whatever happened in Pittsburgh, I mean, that thing fell apart in the last year, and sometimes those things happen. I saw nothing. And again, I've seen him practice, Dan, 10 or 15 times in my duties as a broadcaster in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, in 100-degree weather. Nobody practices harder. You can say what you want about who he is or what he is, or all I know is he wants the football, and he practices harder than anybody. He's potentially a Hall of Fame wide receiver, and again, he kind of changes what we do on offense.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.